Hey everyone, welcome to Gen U Games. I'm Uris, and today we're doing what every Zelda fan secretly argues about, ranking every single Zelda game on the Nintendo Switch, from worst to best, from iconic classics to modern masterpieces, and yeah, even a few spin-offs. We're looking at how each game stacks up in terms of gameplay, story, innovation, and overall Zelda magic here in 2025. Now, this isn't just nostalgia talking. I'm breaking each game down one by one with love, honesty, and a little tough truth where needed. So grab your shield, sharpen your sword, and let's start this journey through every Zelda adventure the Switch has to offer. Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity is easily the most divisive Zelda game on the Switch, and that's exactly why it lands at the bottom of this list. Now don't get me wrong, this isn't a bad game. It's fun, flashy, and packed with action. But at its core, it's not really a Zelda game in the traditional sense. It's a Musou-style hack and slash, which means you're mowing down literal hundreds of enemies at once in giant battlefields. That can be satisfying for a while, but the gameplay gets repetitive fast, and the performance really suffers. We're talking frequent frame rate dips, especially in handheld mode or during co-op. What's interesting is that the game was marketed as a prequel to Breath of the Wild, showing us the Great Calamity, the fall of Hyrule. But halfway through, the story takes a left turn into alternate timeline territory. So if you were expecting actual BOTW lore, it's kind of a bait and switch. Now, to its credit, the combat is deep, the character roster is impressive. You can play as everyone from Link and Zelda to Giant Guardians and even Master Koga. And the music? Absolutely phenomenal. But between the technical issues, the lack of classic Zelda exploration, and the misleading plot, Age of Calamity just doesn't hold up to the rest of the games in the series. Great for Musou fans. Not essential for Zelda purists. Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition is exactly what it sounds like. A massive, content-stuffed mashup of the Zelda universe in Musou form. This isn't a traditional Zelda adventure. It's a celebration, a chaotic, high-speed tribute to 30-plus years of Zelda history. You've got characters from Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, even weird, deep cuts like Tingle and Linkle. Yeah, that's a thing. The gameplay? Hack. Slash. Repeat. You're clearing waves of enemies, capturing zones, and pulling off explosive, over-the-top special attacks. The first few hours? Wildly fun. But then fatigue sets in. The gameplay loop doesn't evolve much, and there are hundreds of side missions, which makes the experience feel bloated instead of deep. That said, it's still a love letter. The music slaps, the fan service is top tier, and the visuals look surprisingly crisp, even in handheld mode. And because this is the definitive edition, it includes every DLC character, map, and costume from the Wii U and 3DS versions, making it a ridiculously big game. But here's the thing, it's not canon. There's no meaningful story, no exploration, no puzzles, just pure Musou mayhem. So while it's great for hardcore Zelda collectors and action junkies, it lacks the soul and pacing that make core Zelda games truly special. It's fun, but forgettable, and that's why it ranks just above Age of Calamity. Coming in at number 7 is The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, the 2019 remake of the original Game Boy classic, and easily one of the most charming Zelda games on the Nintendo Switch. Let's talk about the art direction first, because it's absolutely stunning. The game looks like a handcrafted diorama. Toy-like characters, tilt-shift camera angles, and glossy textures that make the whole world feel dreamlike. It perfectly matches the tone of the story, which, by the way, is one of the weirdest and most emotional in the entire series. You're stranded on Koholint Island, helping quirky characters like a chain chomp, a talking raccoon, and even Mario enemies. Yes, really. All while trying to escape a place that may or may not even be real. It's not your typical Zelda narrative, and that's what makes it special. Gameplay-wise, it sticks close to the original. Classic top-down exploration. puzzle-solving dungeons, and a growing inventory of tools like the Rock's Feather, Hookshot, and Bow. It's tight, focused, and polished, but also very short. You can finish the whole game in under 10 hours, maybe even less if you know what you're doing. Now here's where it stumbles. Despite being a Switch game, it suffers from occasional frame rate dips, especially when entering towns or scrolling between zones. It's never unplayable, but it's noticeable. And while the new dungeon builder feature was a cool idea, it feels half-baked and doesn't replace a full dungeon creator. Overall, Link's Awakening is a cozy, faithful remake of a cult classic, perfect for a weekend playthrough. But in a world where Zelda has grown so massive and open-ended, this one feels a bit too small in scope. Still, if you love Zelda's weird side, this is a must-play. At number 6, we've got Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons, a pair of classic Game Boy Color Zelda titles now available on Switch via Nintendo Switch Online. These games were wild back in 2001. Developed by Capcom, not Nintendo, they were designed as companion games. Think Pokemon Red and Blue, but with full-on Zelda adventures. What's so cool about them is that they actually complement each other. Oracle of Ages focuses on puzzles and time travel, similar to Ocarina of Time in theme, while Seasons leans more into action and has this great seasonal mechanic where the entire environment changes depending on the time of year. You can grow vines in spring, freeze lakes in winter, or drop boulders in autumn to reach new areas. It's incredibly clever for 8-bit hardware. And here's the kicker. If you finish one game, you get a password that lets you continue your adventure in the other, unlocking extra bosses, story twists, and even the true final boss, Twin Rova and Ganon. That level of connectivity was way ahead of its time. But let's be real, these games show their age. Navigation isn't always intuitive, some puzzles are brutal without a guide, and the menus are clunky by modern standards. You'll often find yourself stuck with no clear direction, unless you grew up in the old-school trial and error era. Still, if you're a fan of top-down Zelda, especially titles like A Link to the Past or Minish Cap, these games are absolute gems, and it's amazing they're finally playable on modern hardware. Just be warned, they're not pick up and play easy. But if you're up for a challenge and want a slice of Zelda history most people missed, Oracle of Ages and Seasons are absolutely worth your time. Coming in at number 5 is Skyward Sword HD, the remastered version of the Wii-era game that tells the very beginning of the entire Zelda timeline. Yep, this is where it all starts. The creation of the Master Sword, the reincarnation cycle of Link and Zelda, and the birth of evil as we know it in Hyrule. Now, when this first came out on Wii in 2011, it was known for one thing, motion controls. You had to swing the Wii remote to swing Link's sword, and that turned a lot of people off. The HD version on Switch fixes a lot of that. Now you can use button controls instead of motion, and it makes a huge difference. It's smoother, more accessible, and way more comfortable in handheld mode. Visually, the art style still holds up surprisingly well. It's like a watercolor painting in motion. Softer and more expressive than Twilight Princess, but not quite as vibrant as Wind Waker. And the soundtrack? One of the best in the entire series, orchestral, emotional, and grand. But here's where Skyward Sword still splits the fanbase. It's very linear. You revisit the same 3 areas multiple times. Dungeons are clever, but there's less freedom than you'd expect from a modern Zelda. And the pacing can drag, especially early on with too many tutorials and slow dialogue. Fi, your spirit guide, can also get annoying with repetitive tips, though the HD version does tone her down, but what saves it, and earns it this spot, is the story. The relationship between Link and Zelda here is the most human, most heartfelt it's ever been. They feel like real people with emotion, history, and stakes. And that ending, pure payoff. So while Skyward Sword isn't the most replayable Zelda, and not everyone vibes with its structure, it's still a crucial piece of the franchise's legacy, and the HD version makes it easier than ever to finally give it the chance it deserves. Ranked at number 4 is The Legend of Zelda, The Minish Cap, a short but unforgettable adventure that proves Zelda's 2D roots are still alive and thriving. Originally released on the Game Boy Advance in 2005, and now on Switch through Nintendo Switch Online, Minish Cap was developed by Capcom. Yes, the same team that did the Oracle games, and it absolutely oozes charm. From the hand-drawn visuals to the snappy dialogue, it feels like a warm Saturday morning cartoon with just enough challenge to keep you thinking. The core gimmick? Link can shrink down to the size of a bug using the magical Minish Cap, which is, by the way, alive and named Eslo. This mechanic isn't just cute, it completely transforms exploration. Suddenly a puddle becomes a lake, blades of grass become walls. Everyday parts of the world turn into huge, intricate mazes. The dungeons, while fewer in number, are tightly designed and full of clever item use. You'll get familiar tools like the Gust Jar and Cane of Pachi, which flips objects, and they all add layers to the puzzles without ever overstaying their welcome. There's also Kinstone Fusions, an optional collectible system that lets you connect with townsfolk and unlock hidden secrets across Hyrule. And let's talk about tone. Unlike some of the darker Zeldas, Minish Cap is joyful, lighthearted, and packed with personality. The animation, especially Link's expressions, is surprisingly detailed for a GBA-era game. The soundtrack is upbeat and whimsical, fitting perfectly with the miniature theme. But here's the downside, it's short. You can beat it in under 15 hours, and it doesn't have the massive open-world sprawl of Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. Still, for what it is, it's tight, polished, and endlessly fun. Minish Cap isn't just a great Zelda game, it's one of the best 2D action-adventure titles on the Switch. And yet, most people haven't even played it, so if you skipped it, fix that. You're missing one of the most creative entries in the series. Taking the number 3 spot is The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, the SNES classic that not only redefined the Zelda formula, but pretty much laid the groundwork for every action-adventure game that followed. Released in 1991 and now playable on Switch through the Super Nintendo Switch Online library, this game was revolutionary, and even over 30 years later, it still plays like a dream. The moment you leave Link's house in the middle of a storm and sneak into Hyrule Castle through a secret passage, you know you're in for something special. This game introduced the now iconic Light World/Dark World mechanic. You explore a massive overworld, defeat bosses in cleverly designed dungeons, and then, boom! The world flips on you, revealing a twisted alternate version with new dangers, puzzles, and secrets. That structure added a layer of depth that was unheard of at the time, and still feels smart today. The pacing is near perfect. You're constantly unlocking new tools like the hook shot, fire rod, or magic mirror, each opening up new areas in intuitive ways. And the dungeon design? Still top tier. Every room feels handcrafted, with just the right balance of challenge and logic. What's also amazing is how much this game balances freedom with guidance. You're gently nudged in the right direction, but never feel like you're on rails. It's a balance newer games sometimes struggle with. Now sure, by modern standards, some of it can feel dated. There's no map markers, and if you're new to retro gaming, the difficulty spikes might surprise you. But once you settle into its rhythm, it's incredibly rewarding. And the music? Timeless. Hyrule Castle, Kakariko Village, Dark World. These themes are still sampled in modern Zelda games for a reason. A Link to the Past is a masterclass in design. Whether you're a longtime fan or brand new to the franchise, this is one of those games you have to play at least once. And thanks to the Switch, now you can. And honestly, you should. At number 2, we've got The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, the game that launched with the Nintendo Switch in 2017 and completely shattered expectations of what a Zelda game could be. This wasn't just a new entry. It was a reinvention. Gone were the traditional dungeon keys and linear progress. Instead, Nintendo handed you a glider, a tablet, and said, go wherever you want. And that's exactly what made it so magical. You could leave the tutorial area, the Great Plateau, and instantly make a beeline to the final boss if you were brave or crazy enough. Or you could spend dozens of hours just exploring, climbing mountains, paragliding off cliffs, cooking weird recipes, or hunting down Korok seeds. The game didn't care how you played. It just rewarded your curiosity. The world of Hyrule was massive, but not empty. Every hill had a purpose. Every ruin had a story. And even without traditional story pacing, you felt immersed, piecing together what happened 100 years ago through memories, NPC dialogue, and quiet environmental storytelling. Combat was open-ended too. Want to roll a boulder into a camp? Do it. Light the grass on fire and use the updraft to launch into the air with your bow? Totally viable. Weapon durability? Yeah, that's a sore spot for many. Some found it immersive and strategic. Others just found it annoying. But whether you loved it or hated it, it forced you to constantly adapt, and that kept things fresh. The only reason Breath of the Wild doesn't sit at number 1 is because its sequel did everything it did and more. But we'll get to that next. Still, this is the game that redefined open-world design, not just for Zelda, but for the entire industry. Games like Elden Ring, Genshin Impact, and even Pokemon Legends owe a piece of their DNA to what BOTW achieved. If you own a Switch and haven't played it yet, stop what you're doing. This is essential gaming. Even after Tears of the Kingdom, this one still holds its crown as a modern masterpiece. And at number 1, no surprises here, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. This game isn't just a sequel to Breath of the Wild. It's the culmination of everything Zelda has ever tried to be. Let's start with the basics. The map. It's the same Hyrule you know from BOTW, but reimagined in 3 full layers. You've got the Sky Islands above, the vast overworld in the middle, and a massive underground network called the Depths, which is eerie, dark, and brutally mysterious. It takes the open world concept and adds verticality, which changes everything about exploration. Now let's talk mechanics. The new abilities you get, especially Ultra Hand and Fuse, unlock insane levels of creativity. You're not just solving puzzles anymore, you're building. Vehicles, contraptions, airships, traps, elevators. Whatever you can dream up, the game pretty much lets you try it. And it works. Not just as a gimmick, but as a fully integrated part of the world. Fuse lets you combine weapons and items in creative ways. Tired of weak swords breaking? Slap a horn or a bomb flower on it. Want to throw a frozen meat chunk at an enemy? Do it. This game says yes to experimentation more than any other Zelda, but what really sets Tears of the Kingdom apart is its storytelling. Unlike BOTW, which left most of the story to environmental clues, Take gives us cutscenes, voice acting, lore, and real emotional arcs. Zelda's journey in this one is powerful. Ganondorf is finally back, fully voiced, fully terrifying, and the game builds to an unforgettable final sequence. That said, it's not perfect. Some players were disappointed that parts of the map and shrines felt recycled. Others felt overwhelmed by how open it was. But none of that changes the fact that this is Zelda at its most ambitious, most creative, and most emotionally complete. Tears of the Kingdom isn't just the best Zelda game on Switch. It might be the best Zelda game ever made. And honestly, one of the greatest video games, period. And that wraps up the full ranking of every Zelda game on the Nintendo Switch. Whether you're all about the retro charm of A Link to the Past or the open-world freedom of Tears of the Kingdom, one thing's clear. Zelda hits different, no matter the generation. But now it's your turn. Drop your personal ranking down in the comments. Did I rank your favorite too low? Maybe too high? Let's talk about it. If you enjoyed the journey, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives and breakdowns, and check out the full playlist for individual videos on each game. I'm Uris, and this has been Gen U Games. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.